Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Triad Travelogues. I am Richard, coming at you today from the outskirts of Shanghai, China, to bring you a new segment that I like to call News from China. Let's jump right in and watch a video from Time.
A Chinese database was discovered online that listed personal information of 1.8 million women, including a, quote, breed-ready status. The database was discovered by Victor Gavers, a Dutchman who works for GDI Foundation, a nonprofit. In the database...
So basically, they discovered this database, and they're not sure what the database is or who it came from. It could be government, it could be an organization, it could be a dating website. Apparently, they don't really know what it is. They just saw the tables in the database, and the tables were categorizing women based on various attributes. So, like, how old is the woman? You know, like, oh, she's 27, marital status, single. You know, where does she live? She lives in Beijing. And then there was one category called breed ready, which sounds nefarious. It doesn't necessarily have to be nefarious, but it definitely does sound that way, especially if it was coming from, like, the government, you know? But let's keep watching this video here.
Gavers found listed the names of Chinese women, their ages, and marital status, among other categories. When analyzing the list, Gavers said the average age of the women was 32 years old, while the youngest listed was only 15. Roughly 80% of the 1.8 million women appeared to live near China's capital, Beijing. China ended
I think one of the major things is, you know, there's been this kind of decline recently of the population in China, which is interesting because back in the day, and I think, you know, most people are sort of casually familiar with China's one-child policy, which was actually abolished a couple of years ago. It was abolished while I was living here. I've been living in China for 5 years. And the one-child policy was originally implemented to help curb the population. They were trying to lessen the number of babies that were popping out here because they saw a future that was not sustainable. There were too many people in the future, and there was not enough. You know, at the time, financially, the country wasn't doing as well as it is now. There were not enough resources, and so they implemented this policy as sort of this really strict measure to make sure that this did not happen. We need to have less people. So instead of putting forth some kind of public education program to try and educate people, I don't know, sex education, family planning education, instead of sort of trying to change people's attitudes about sex, about, you know, babies, about family planning, and show people why this kind of stuff is important, we really need to slow down population growth, they just implemented this sort of draconian, you can only have one child. And it wasn't really that strict. It wasn't like if you had more than one kid, they were going to come to your door and, like, kill your kid. It was just that there were heavy penalties involved with having extra kids. So I guess extra kids were taxed. So there were people that were, you know, there were plenty of people that were having more than one kid. You know, people that could afford it, wealthy people or semi-wealthy people or whatever, just people who were willing to put forth that extra little bit of money that it would cost to have extra kids. Now, the problem is with the one-child policy is something that they didn't take into consideration is some of the cultural attitudes towards girls. Now, those cultural attitudes are changing with the new generation, and I think a lot of the attitudes and traditions have changed very, very dramatically and very rapidly with the new generation. But the older generations are still around, and they still have this pretty profound impact on cultural attitudes, partially because the older generation is raising the newer generation's children. It's really common for grandparents here to raise their grandchildren. Not just to help, but really to sort of act as the parental figures while the parents work. And so the older attitudes, in any culture, the older attitudes and the older stuff that didn't work or that's obsolete generally goes away. But in China, it takes a little bit longer for it to go away. Well, because of the fact that, the older generation is so involved with their children's children, and they're so involved with sort of, raising the family, that I think it takes a little bit longer for those attitudes to die. Plus, China's culture is very old. It's been around for thousands of years, and a lot of these things are very deeply embedded into their culture, more so than I think most people from the West could imagine, especially somebody from the United States or Canada, which culturally is a baby compared to, East Asia, compared to China. But one of those things, the attitude towards children is the preference for boys, that people prefer to have boys. And that is another thing that's very complex. There are a lot of reasons behind that, but traditionally boys were preferable to girls because the boy would sort of carry on the family's legacy, and also the boy had the responsibility of shouldering his parents financially, of basically taking care of them. He would go off, he would do well in school, ideally do well in school. He would study. He would go on to graduate, get a really nice job, marry a nice girl, bring her into the family, and then take care of her, take care of sometimes her family, her immediate family, and then take care of his mom and dad. So it was always, especially traditionally, it was preferable to have a boy because it was financially advantageous to have a boy. It's like, well, once we're retired or once we're too old to work, he's going to take care of us, And with a girl, you did not always have that guarantee or that perception of a guarantee, because with a girl, that some dude could come and just take her, and he takes her into his family, and you may very well not be supported at all. I mean, it depends on the circumstances, but with a boy, it was considered like, this is a guarantee. This kid's going to take care of us. And so what happened is, when the one-child policy was implemented for people who could only afford to have one kid, a lot of people, I mean, not everybody, obviously, but there were many people who were eliminating or aborting girls. They would find out that they were having a girl, and they would abort the pregnancy and try again. There were even people that were just straight abandoning their daughters, abandoning the girls that were born because they wanted to have a boy. And so a result of this over many, many years is that, the little boys, all these little boys that are born, all became men, and the little girls that weren't born didn't become women. And so now you have a population that is very male heavy, a lot of men, and not many women, or not as many women as there should be to facilitate regular, normal procreation and population growth. I think I read somewhere that for every 100 men, there were 86 women, I think. So it's become such a problem now that China has actually reversed their stance on this. They're actually encouraging people now. They've recognized that this is a problem, and it's not a problem of the population's getting too big, but they're looking at the future now, saying what's going to happen when we're overrun by men and not enough women to facilitate a regular growth of, a healthy growth of a population. The population's going to start declining. So it's an interesting sort of, it seems like, like I said before, the policy did not work. It was doomed to fail because there are too many cultural considerations there are too many things to take into consideration when you're dealing with a culture that is as old and complex and multifaceted as Chinese culture. It just didn't take enough into consideration. It was just this hard line. They like to do that, this hard line stance. You must just, everyone has one kid. That's going to fix the problem. But it didn't fix the problem. It actually made the problem worse. It created a new problem. in the opposite direction. But the new problem might very well be much more serious than the old problem. We're going to continue watching this video. Let's keep going with this video.
It's one-child family planning policy in 2015 and is facing a declining population, which has been called an official problem by the country's government. Shortly after Gavers posted a screenshot that showed the so-called breed-ready status for the women, the database was taken offline. Gavers told Time that he does not know the owner of the database, and as far as the term breed-ready, Gavers said, quote, "To be honest, I hope it was just poor English of the developer." Gavers said he would continue to dig, adding that he would be attempting to contact some of the women on the list to see if they had...
Yeah, so the reason the breed ready thing is kind of scary is because, you know, of the fact that we know that the government is concerned with the growth rate, or with the birth rate, and in the past they have implemented these very hardline policies and basically told people what they can and can't do in terms of family planning. So it's an extreme, because this database this guy found could easily just be a dating website, just listing the attributes of women, you know, for their profiles or whatever. It could be some kind of private company that's collecting data on people. You know, it could be nothing that big of a deal. It's all just a lot of speculation, but it just brings this stuff up because of the issues with population, and also the track record that this country has had with kind of attempting to deal with these problems in very draconian ways.
Signed up for something. When China's social network Weibo heard about the situation, some called it a, quote, real-life Handmaid's Tale. A Chinese database was discovered online.
Okay, that's it. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. It's just it's an interesting thing to think about. You know, beep. See, I'm out. I'm done. That was pretty good. I want to tell you guys, I've tried it. This is the first time I've done this news segment, and this is like actually the 6th or 7th time that I've tried to do this one, and for whatever reason, I've been unable to get through the whole thing. I hit a roadblock, and I'm like, well, and my brain just goes like mush. Like, so what else can I say? I've said all I have to say. The problem is, when I'm done, I'm like, keep talking. I just, okay, I'm going to keep talking, but then I don't have anything else to say. So I'm just like, well, then I look stupid. But I thought this was pretty good. Okay, I thought this was a pretty good segment from the beginning until right now when I'm just rambling. So I'm going to stop while I am not entirely 6 feet underneath the ground. I don't want to do this segment again. I got other stuff that I need to do. Maybe it'll get better in the future. Maybe I won't ever do one of these again. You guys tell me what you think about this. This idea just popped into my head today. I should do a new segment on my channel. People would love that. I'm good at talking. Well, it turns out I'm not actually good at any of this. Anyway, hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so right now at this very moment. Give this video a big thumbs up. Tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. And tell your friends and family about how awesome Triad Travelogues is. Thank you for watching. My name's Richard. We'll see you next time.